What is it like to break off an engagement 1 month before the wedding? Bae Seok-ryu truly experienced it this time. She secretly boarded a plane to South Korea, fearing a beating from her mother upon returning. Even a kind flight attendant who tried to wake her ended up startling her into screaming. Upon arriving in Korea, Bae Seok-ryu had her best friend, Jung Mo-yum, pick her up from the airport to give her courage. The two planned to go home together and confess everything. Unaware of Bae Seok-ryu's intentions, Jung Mo-yum took her to eat stir-fried rice cakes, and they enjoyed their time together until Bae Seok-ryu's brother also arrived to buy rice cakes. Bae Seok-ryu quickly pulled her friend down to hide, making Jung Mo-yum suspect that Bae Seok-ryu had caused major trouble in America. Bae Seok-ryu hastily explained that she was just trying to surprise her family since ringing the doorbell would be too boring. Without giving Jung Mo-yum time to think, she hurried her towards home, begging her friend to stay by her side no matter what happened that day. At that moment, Jung Mo-yum started to realize her friend had caused serious problems. Conveniently, the fire chief called her, and she quickly made an excuse to leave. Abandoned by her friend, Bae Seok-ryu had to go home alone and discovered that the old bathhouse in the alley had been transformed into a luxurious building. She remembered the embarrassing moments when she and her childhood friend, Choi Sung-hyo, were dragged to the women's bath by their mothers. Curious, Bae Seok-ryu circled the building and turned to find Choi Sung-hyo approaching. She then learned that the building was the new office of his architectural firm. Choi Sung-hyo, a successful architect known for winning numerous awards, was not only talented, but his handsome looks also attracted many female colleagues. Recently, he was planning to design a memorial park to better understand the wishes of the deceased. For this, he specifically visited a ritual master with 20 years of experience to seek her opinion. The master, who had recently lost her mother and was accustomed to life and death, was happy to have personally sent her mother off and hoped that visitors to the memorial park could feel a bit of joy. Therefore, she advised that the park did not necessarily have to be somber, as it was a place loved by many. Inspired, Choi Sung-hyo returned to his office to record his ideas when he spotted Bae Seok-ryu sneaking around. The two immediately started bickering upon seeing each other. Just then, Bae Seok-ryu's mother and several friends walked by. In a panic, Bae Seok-ryu dove into a nearby cardboard box, begging Choi Sung-hyo to help her and not to reveal he had seen her. In the confusion, Bae Seok-ryu left her luggage in the middle of the road. When her mother and others came over and grew curious about the name on the luggage tag, Choi Sung-hyo quickly claimed the luggage was his. Bae Seok-ryu's mother kindly pushed the luggage towards him, and Choi Sung-hyo, while guarding the suitcase, jokingly called it a pile of trash. After sending them away, he pressed on the suitcase, guessing Bae Seok-ryu must have caused trouble in America and was afraid to face her family. Bae Seok-ryu, not wanting to reveal her broken engagement, burst out of the box and rushed into Choi Sung-hyo's company, intending to use the restroom. And afterward, she took the opportunity to look around her childhood friend's new office. Afterwards, the naive Bae Seok-ryu visited Choi Sung-hyo's office again. When she learned that Choi Sung-hyo had designed a ceiling structure identical to ancient tombs, she laughed hysterically and called him a weirdo. Suddenly, Bae Seok-ryu tripped over a wire, but fortunately, Choi Sung-hyo quickly blocked a falling bookshelf. Bae Seok-ryu tenderly checked Choi Sung-hyo's back, which was injured by an ornamental piece from the shelf. Seeing a scar, she remembered a childhood incident where she accidentally hurt him. Choi Sung-hyo was used to it. His body bore many scars from Bae Seok-ryu's past misadventures. Guessing that she had caused more trouble, he advised her to confess to her mother soon, as delaying would only worsen the inevitable beating. Despite teasing Bae Seok-ryu, Choi Sung-hyo was genuinely concerned for her safety and followed her home. Spotting a delivery worker's helmet, Bae Seok-ryu had a sudden idea. She opened her suitcase, put on several layers of clothing, and prepared to confront her mother. At the doorstep, Bae Seok-ryu grabbed Choi Sung-hyo, insisting that he face her mother with her. He quickly asked what trouble she had caused, and Bae Seok-ryu confessed to breaking off her engagement. As her mother's voice came from behind, incredulous, Bae Seok-ryu had to explain again. Although the explanation was superficial, her mother suppressed her anger to ask if it was the man who had called off the engagement. When her daughter admitted her own fault, her mother mistakenly thought Bae Seok-ryu had cheated, leading to the broken engagement. Seeing her daughter silent, the mother exploded in rage and hurled a leek at Bae Seok-ryu. Choi Sung-hyo stepped in to block it, getting hit instead. Choi Sung-hyo's mother intervened, feeling sorry for her son. Bae Seok-ryu's father also stepped in to try to understand his daughter's struggles. Bae Seok-ryu then revealed she had also quit her job, causing her father to faint. Her mother rushed over, ready to beat her crazy daughter. Terrified, Bae Seok-ryu grabbed Choi Sung-hyo and ran, hiding from her mother's wrath. Once safe, Bae Seok-ryu used Choi Sung-hyo as a shield and shed the thick clothes, starting another argument. Choi Sung-hyo mocked her for falsely claiming to have cheated. Bae Seok-ryu, seeing he didn't believe her, haughtily declared herself a very charming femme fatale. Choi Sung-hyo, speechless and seeing her joke even now, asked why she suddenly chose to end her marriage and quit her enviable job. Bae Seok-ryu sighed, feeling her life was overheating. She had been relentlessly pursuing success, from getting into a prestigious school to studying in the US, job hunting, and planning a wedding. Now, she was exhausted and just wanted to reboot her life and rediscover herself. Choi Sung-hyo admired her courage and was about to offer some encouraging words when he received a call from Bae Seok-ryu's brother, who relayed that their mother had calmed down and would not hit her if she returned. Choi Sung-hyo passed on the message, promising to accompany her back for support. Turning his head, he couldn't help but smirk. Once home, Bae Seok-ryu found her mother crying on the sofa and quickly went to comfort her. But the next moment, her mother declared they should die together. Choi Sung-hyo stood at the door with a mischievous grin, eavesdropping on Bae Seok-ryu's wails. His thoughts drifted back to his childhood, when his peers mocked him for not speaking Korean because he was born abroad, calling him a fool. Bae Seok-ryu burst out, demanding to know who dared to bully her baby. Choi Sung-hyo smiled as she returned. It seemed that her return would bring noise and chaos back to the place. Jung Mo-yum was unaware of the major incident at her friend's house. She was called away by a call from the captain about a drunk man who had fallen and was bleeding in the park. Jung Mo-yum found the pale-faced man, tried to check his blood sugar, and planned to take him to the hospital. However, the man rudely told her to go away, smashing a bottle and warning her not to meddle. A passing reporter tried to help but fell after just a few steps. Jung Mo-yum impressively knocked the drunk man down with a kick, making him behave like a quiet baby. She then took him to the hospital and kindly gave him candy as a gift, advising him not to drink. The man carefully stuffed the note and candy into his pocket, a scene observed by Kang Dan-ho, who suddenly took a liking to the impressive Jung Mo-yum. Unbeknownst to the friends, new romances were brewing. After beating her daughter, Bae Seok-ryu's mother demanded to know the real reason for calling off the wedding. She didn't believe her daughter would cheat. Bae Seok-ryu, unwilling to reveal the true reason, tried to brush it off, simply saying she was tired of life. Her mother, containing her anger, asked about her future plans. Bae Seok-ryu said all she wanted was to clear her mind, sleep, and eat all the Korean dishes to become the happiest unemployed person. The next morning, her mother, seeing Bae Seok-ryu sleeping soundly on the floor, angrily slammed the door as she left. Bae Seok-ryu woke up, went downstairs to eat, but her still angry mother snatched the bowl from her hands, scolding her for not deserving to eat. Just as Bae Seok-ryu was about to argue, Choi Sung-hyo and Jung Mo-yum arrived to check on her. Bae Seok-ryu glared at Choi Sung-hyo and fiercely told him they needed to talk alone later. Seeing Choi Sung-hyo ignore her, she turned her frustration towards her brother, and the two started fighting. Bae Seok-ryu's mother couldn't contain her anger any longer and stormed into the basement to furiously play the drums, silencing everyone. Jung Mo-yum realized her aunt was seriously angry and kept asking Bae Seok-ryu why she made such an impulsive decision. Seeing her friend trying to evade the question, Jung Mo-yum had to leave for work. Choi Sung-hyo wasn't so lucky. Bae Seok-ryu put him in a chokehold, calling him a traitor. Fortunately, Bae Seok-ryu's mother arrived in time to save Choi Sung-hyo and even kicked her daughter, instructing her to bring steamed cakes to Choi Sung-hyo's company and distribute them to the neighbors before the opening. Reluctantly delivering the cakes, Bae Seok-ryu met Choi Sung-hyo's female colleague who, fascinated upon learning they were childhood friends, asked about their story. This sparked Bae Seok-ryu's spirits. Recalling the first time she saw a fragile Choi Sung-hyo, her protective instincts kicked in. Over the years, she took him to play games, handed him nutritious meals, and helped him make friends with other kids. That evening, Bae Seok-ryu suddenly craved scallion pancakes and started making them on the balcony. Her friends and Choi Sung-hyo, attracted by the smell, came over. While Jung Mo-yim went to buy drinks, Bae Seok-ryu asked Choi Sung-hyo about his troubles. She had overheard his colleague complaining about the economic downturn affecting their project payments. Choi Sung-hyo wasn't worried about himself, but was more concerned about when Bae Seok-ryu would reveal the real reason for her return. He encouraged her to explain everything to her mother soon. His warm words made Bae Seok-ryu thoughtful. Then she playfully put him in a chokehold again. Her mother, knowing Bae Seok-ryu was withholding the truth, gathered the courage to call her prospective son-in-law, but he didn't answer. Bae Seok-ryu saw her mother sneakily hiding the phone and grabbed it. Seeing her ex-boyfriend's number, she changed her expression, deleted the contact, and told her mother to stop trying to reach him. Then, she aimlessly boarded a bus, recalling her time in the US, where she was considered a workaholic and arrogant by her colleagues, which eventually led to her dismissal. She had wanted to seek comfort from her boyfriend, but saw him kissing another woman. Only when the bus driver announced the last stop did she snap back to reality and walked home disheartened. On the way, she bought a plant called the Bae Seok-ryu tree and handed it to Choi Sung-hyo as a gift for his office opening, suggesting it would bring luck to his new business. Choi Sung-hyo joked about throwing the tree away, but Bae Seok-ryu warned him that if its leaves fell, his company would decline. Terrified, Choi Sung-hyo hugged the pot tightly. On the day of his office opening, Bae Seok-ryu's mother worried that her friends would gossip about her daughter's broken engagement and discouraged her from attending. Bae Seok-ryu reluctantly agreed. As expected, the aunties at the event started making snide remarks, asking when Bae Seok-ryu would marry and mocking her mother for previously boasting about a lavish wedding in Hawaii. Choi Sung-hyo's mother tried to smooth things over, but the aunties continued their gossip in the restroom, belittling Bae Seok-ryu's mother for being prideful, despite having nothing and being unable to attend university due to poverty, always in Choi Sung-hyo's mother's shadow. Bae Seok-ryu's mother felt uneasy hearing this. Bae Seok-ryu, delivering a brooch to her mother at the office, was spotted by the aunties. Her mother reluctantly bragged about her daughter, claiming she had just resigned from a major US company only to be scouted by an even better one. She said Bae Seok-ryu was taking the opportunity to rest back home before returning abroad. Choi Sung-hyo watched Bae Seok-ryu, who looked lost among the crowd, feeling conflicted. Bae Seok-ryu knew her mother was embarrassed by her and felt utterly disappointed. Facing her room filled with clutter, Bae Seok-ryu realized her mother didn't want her back at all. Indeed, her mother threw her suitcase on the floor, furiously asking why she betrayed her. She had thought her life was a tragedy and hoped only for her daughter's success. Now, seeing Bae Seok-ryu sleeping all day and laughing foolishly, she was utterly disappointed. Bae Seok-ryu burst into tears, admitting she was too tired from her life in America. She no longer wanted to be her mother's pride or a tool to enhance her mother's life story. After saying this, she stormed out. Choi Sung-hyo quickly followed her. In front of him, Bae Seok-ryu put on her usual cheerful facade. Choi Seung-hyo, knowing her inner turmoil, silently stayed by her side. They shared a small, pitiful umbrella. Suddenly, Bae Seok-ryu laughed out loud, thinking of their childhood fun, and tears streamed down her face. Choi Seung-hyo advised her not to pretend to be strong. Bae Seok-ryu's defenses broke down. Her mother, seeing Bae Seok-ryu's suitcase again, started to clean up the piled-up clutter in the room. Accidentally, a brooch fell to the floor. She pinned it carefully to her chest and couldn't help but cry. In high school, to buy this brooch for her mother, Bae Seok-ryu and Choi Seung-hyo worked hard at part-time jobs, like scrubbing baking trays. After getting paid, she bought the brooch and star stickers for her mother, who happily pinned the brooch to her chest, while Bae Seok-ryu decorated her ceiling with the stars. Bae Seok-ryu's mother contacted Choi Sung-hyo, asking him to redecorate Bae Seok-ryu's room. She didn't want her daughter sleeping in a cramped space anymore. Choi Sung-hyo immediately began designing the room in secret, buying wallpaper and furniture. When Bae Seok-ryu came home and saw her transformed room, she was thrilled and asked her mother, who revealed that Choi Sung-hyo had designed it. Unable to hide her smile, the relationship between mother and daughter finally returned to normal. Bae Seok-ryu happily accepted her parents' care, feeling blissful. In the evening, as Bae Seok-ryu went to sleep, she saw the ceiling covered with glow-in-the-dark stars. She excitedly called Choi Sung-hyo to thank him, He jokingly asked her to keep the curtains closed in the future. Curious, Bae Seok-ryu opened the curtains and was surprised to find Choi Sung-hyo right across from her. He quipped that he didn't want to see her messy, bare face every time he opened his window. Choi Sung-hyo had moved back across from Bae Seok-ryu's house. As they looked at each other, time seemed to rewind to the day she was putting up the stars and almost fell. But Choi Sung-hyo caught her. In that moment, their hearts beat for each other. In high school, Choi Seung-hyo participated in an important swimming competition. His parents were too busy with their careers to attend, so he arrived at the venue feeling disappointed. However, he found Bae Seok-ryu cheering loudly for him in the stands. Spurred on by her screams, Choi Sung-hyo swam hard and won the championship. At 3 a.m., Choi Sung-hyo was awakened by Bae Seok-ryu's screams. Annoyed, he quickly opened the window to complain about her noise. Unable to tolerate Bae Seok-ryu watching dramas, he deliberately spoiled the plot for her. When Choi Sung-hyo went to work, his colleague brought good news. They had secured the famous Silver Hair Village project in Korea, which would soon resolve the company's financial crisis. However, Choi Sung-hyo was uninterested until he saw a high school renovation project design competition, which piqued his interest. While Choi Sung-hyo worked hard, Bae Seok-ryu started her jobless plan. She meticulously created a schedule for her days, which included playing games, daydreaming, and watching TV until the afternoon. Bae Seok-ryu, feeling mischievous, invited Choi Sung-hyo to join her at a comic book store after work, but he coldly refused. Bae Seok-ryu then contacted Jung Mo-yum. Upon arriving at the comic store, Jung Mo-yum was drawn to a bloody comic restricted to those under 19. Bae Seok-ryu was excited as she had been eyeing adult comics. Misunderstanding her friend's interest, an awkward moment ensued until Choi Sung-hyo hurried in, claiming he came just for his favorite comics, not for Bae Seok-ryu. As night fell, the trio left the comic store. Bae Seok-ryu wanted to play board games, but everyone was too busy, so she went alone. The next day, Bae Seok-ryu went to help at her parents' shop just as her high school teacher came to buy rice cakes. She helped deliver them to the school, where she ran into Choi Sung-hyo attending the school renovation project design competition. The teacher, seeing two former students, wanted them to give a speech. Unfortunately, Choi Sung-hyo was busy with the competition, so the teacher asked Bae Seok-ryu, now working for a big company in the USA, to speak instead. In the classroom, Bae Seok-ryu shared her life experiences until a student asked if her dream had always been to work for a top global company, which left her speechless. Meanwhile, Choi Sung-hyo visited the renovated gym, reminiscing about swimming freely in his younger days. Later, he waited for Bae Seok-ryu to return home, taking her to dig up a time capsule they buried 10 years ago, containing letters to their future selves. They couldn't find the capsule, and a disheartened Bae Seok-ryu walked away, with Choi Sung-hyo following. Unnoticed by them, the time capsule was partially unearthed. The next day, Choi Sung-hyo and his colleague met with the Silver Hair Village project client, who wanted a design mimicking a famous international designer's work. Choi Sung-hyo left angrily, refusing to compromise his integrity as an architect. His colleague tried to mediate, warning that the company needed profits, but Choi Sung-hyo maintained his principles. Upon hearing this, his colleague was angered. He was really dissatisfied. Choi Sung-hyo, influenced by personal feelings, refused a profitable collaboration. He devoted himself daily to the less lucrative high school gym renovation project. His colleague's words hit a sore spot for Choi Sung-hyo. Choi Sung-hyo angrily left. On his drive home, he saw Bae Seok-ryu talking with a headhunter at a coffee shop. He couldn't help but ask about her job at the American company. Bae Seok-ryu didn't say much. After finishing her conversation with the headhunter, Choi Sung-hyo called out to her. The two stopped by a public water fountain to drink. Bae Seok-ryu then played with some fitness equipment. She confessed she had just met with the headhunter who offered her several positions similar to her previous job, with decent pay. Choi Sung-hyo didn't care about the other conditions. He wanted to know if Bae Seok-ryu was interested in the job. Though making money is necessary for survival, he hoped Bae Seok-ryu would do what she loved and not bow to reality. He still remembered the old Bae Seok-ryu, who would stomp her feet in excitement when talking about what she wanted to do. But now she would no longer do so. Bae Seok-ryu thought he was too idealistic. Those in a privileged, warm environment are the ones who can afford to dream. The old her rarely felt warmth, spending most of her time in cold conditions. She believed Choi Sung-hyo couldn't understand her feelings. But Bae Seok-ryu forgot that Choi Sung-hyo also experienced lows. Back when he was a strong swimmer before a competition, Bae Seok-ryu gave him a towel embroidered with a blessing. Unfortunately, Choi Sung-hyo was hit by a car while crossing the street. Due to a leg injury, he had to end his swimming career and say goodbye to his dreams. How could Bae Seok-ryu forget that memory? That was Choi Sung-hyo's most desolate moment. The more Bae Seok-ryu thought, the more she regretted her harsh words that hurt Choi Sung-hyo. She wanted to apologize to Choi Sung-hyo but lacked the courage. The next day, Choi Sung-hyo arrived at the company. A female colleague had heard about the disagreement between the two bosses and their big argument. From the company's perspective, when interacting with clients, they are the subordinate party and need to maintain a humble attitude. But Choi Sung-hyo appeared too proud and principled. Such traits, stemming from his comfortable life, made him idealistic. Choi Sung-hyo remembered Bae Seok-ryu's words. He took the initiative to speak with his colleague and agreed to take on the collaboration. Meanwhile, Bae Seok-ryu visited her old high school. Watching the youthful students, she recalled a student's question during a previous school speech, asking what her original dream was. The word dream seemed too distant to her now. Initially, she wanted to be top of her class, to make her mother proud and earn recognition from those around her. Looking back, the old her cared too much about others' opinions and never seriously considered what she truly wanted to do. Bae Seok-ryu waited at the school until dusk, waiting for the students to leave, then started digging up the time capsule they buried 10 years ago. Her old teacher found her and invited Bae Seok-ryu to the office for tea. During their conversation, Bae Seok-ryu confessed she had resigned from the American company, or rather, was pushed out. The teacher shared her feelings. Bae Seok-ryu always did everything so well in school, which made the teacher worry about her ability to handle failure. The teacher didn't teach her how to handle failure, but children grow up. During this process, they find their own answers. After saying this, the teacher sent Bae Seok-ryu to the swimming pool where Choi Sung-hyo was. Choi Sung-hyo had dug up the time capsule earlier and started reading a letter Bae Seok-ryu had written 10 years ago upon seeing him arrive. Embarrassed, Bae Seok-ryu chased after him, attempting to retrieve the letter. Choi Sung-hyo jumped into the pool, marking his first visit since he quit swimming. Bae Seok-ryu took this opportunity to apologize for his earlier words. Continuing, Choi Sung-hyo recalled how after injuring his leg, he would lay in bed all day while Bae Seok-ryu persistently bothered him. Wanting to be alone, Choi Sung-hyo pushed Bae Seok-ryu out and locked the door. Bae Seok-ryu then used a key to open the door, but Choi Sung-hyo quickly took the key, pushed him out again, and locked the door. Bae Seok-ryu chose to enter through the window next. She brought a ladder, climbed up to Choi Sung-hyo's window, and while she was climbing, she didn't notice Choi Sung-hyo at the window, startling him and causing him to lean back, luckily caught by Choi Sung-hyo. Once inside, Bae Seok-ryu began accusing Choi Sung-hyo, who, annoyed, lashed out at her. Bae Seok-ryu achieved her goal. It had been a month since she last heard Choi Sung-hyo speak loudly and vent his emotions. Bae Seok-ryu then pulled an axe from her bag, threatening to break the lock if Choi Sung-hyo locked the door again. To this day, Choi Sung-hyo still remembers the crazy side of Bae Seok-ryu, which he prefers over her current calm and dull demeanor. Angered, Bae Seok-ryu, who couldn't swim, jumped into the pool. Choi Sung-hyo rushed to catch her and taught her to relax her body. Bae Seok-ryu's mood stabilized, and she felt everyone was progressing except her. She would eventually find her own direction. Choi Sung-hyo asked her if she would want to go back to before quitting her job and calling off her engagement. Bae Seok-ryu firmly answered she wouldn't. As they talked, Bae Seok-ryu began to sink, and Choi Sung-hyo quickly embraced her. They looked into each other's eyes. Choi Sung-hyo remembered the last line he wrote to his future self 10 years ago, hoping he would have confessed to Bae Seok-ryu by then. Bae Seok-ryu and Choi Sung-hyo were chatting in the high school swimming pool when Bae Seok-ryu sneezed, breaking the mood. They climbed out of the pool. Excited, Bae Seok-ryu opened the time capsule, which was missing Jong Mo-yoon's letter. Without dwelling on it, both read the letters they had written to themselves. Choi Sung-hyo became shy after glancing at his letter, hiding it and rushing home. He repeatedly read the words he wrote about liking Bae Seok-ryu, convincing himself that his younger self had temporarily lost sanity. wondering how he could have fallen for the eccentric Bae Seok-ryu. Meanwhile, Bae Seok-ryu was frustrated, having hoped to find her childhood dreams in the letter but found no useful information and still didn't know what to do next. The next day, an angry Bae Seok-ryu deliberately bumped into Choi Seung-hyo and then pulled out a career encyclopedia, arrogantly telling him she was searching for her dream career and asked for his advice. Following him to his company, she continued seeking his opinion. Bae Seok-ryu accidentally heard that Grip, the American company she used to work for, plans to build a new skyscraper in Seoul. They want Choi Seung-hyo's design firm and the leading Hwawon architects to collaborate on the project. Upon hearing this news, Choi Seung-hyo did not look pleased. He covertly observed Bae Seok-ryu, who appeared downcast. Colleagues thought Choi Seung-hyo was skeptical of the good news and showed him an email from the American company. However, neither understood English well, so Bae Seok-ryu helped translate. She inadvertently revealed that the sender was her former colleague, who urgently asked Bae Seok-ryu to work with them for better communication with the American company. Choi Seung-hyo was about to object, but Bae Seok-ryu quickly agreed. Despite her reluctance to face her former company, she decided to help her childhood friend. After work, Bae Seok-ryu and Choi Seung-hyo went to a convenience store and ran into Jong Mo-yum and Kang Dan-ho. Kang had recently moved nearby and was arguing with Jong over the last bottle of their favorite drink. Earlier, Kang recognized Jong as the person who had saved him from a man but still stubbornly refused to let go of the drink. The four chatted together. Kang, who had interviewed Choi Seung-hyo before, found Bae Seok-ryu somehow familiar but couldn't recall where he had seen her. During the conversation, he learned that the three were close childhood friends. Curious, Choi Seung-hyo asked where Kang used to live, but Kang left hurriedly, citing an urgent matter, leaving the others puzzled. With Bae Seok-ryu's help, Choi Seung-hyo communicated smoothly with Grip. Bae Seok-ryu also arranged a meeting with the manager. Colleagues praised her enthusiastically and asked why she had left the American company. Before Bae Seok-ryu could answer, a colleague received a customer complaint call and hurriedly pulled Choi Seung-hyo away to handle it. While they were gone, Bae Seok-ryu overheard a conversation from Grip's manager. Compared to Choi Seung-hyo's new firm, the manager favored the well-known Hwawon architects. Bae Seok-ryu stormed into Choi Seung-hyo's office, insisting he stop working with Grip, as they already preferred another company. She had heard this just after a video call when the other party had turned off their camera but continued talking, mentioning Choi Seung-hyo's firm's lack of experience and achievements. Regardless of the outcome, Choi Seung-hyo was committed to his work and asked Bae Seok-ryu not to tell the colleagues yet. Bae Seok-ryu was anxious. She knew her former company did not value Choi Seung-hyo's efforts, viewing his serious approach as futile. Seeing Choi Seung-hyo persist upset her, and she left angrily. On the day of the meeting with Grip, Bae Seok-ryu still showed up on time to translate for Choi Seung-hyo. Among the Grip representatives was her former colleague Chris. Seeing him, Bae Seok-ryu was visibly upset, recalling how she and Chris had repeatedly failed a project test in the same team. Bae Seok-ryu suggested trying again. Two team members disagreed. Chris supported Bae Seok-ryu. However, these two members were new. They didn't understand the project as well as Bae Seok-ryu. Bae Seok-ryu needed to handle most of the testing work. She was willing and readily agreed. After the meeting, Bae Seok-ryu thanked Chris for his support. Chris mentioned, Bae Seok-ryu was like a magic lamp. Just by touching her head and making a wish, she would fulfill it. He trusted her capabilities. Bae Seok-ryu enjoyed the praise, but it became a way for others to exploit her. With just a little flattery, she would take on extra work. They were ungrateful and mocked her need for approval. Chris also spread rumors about her suspension 3 years ago. Bae Seok-ryu overheard them speaking ill of her. Chris saw her and just smirked. Reflecting on the past, Bae Seok-ryu was distracted and spilled her water. She went to clean up in the restroom. Upon returning, she ran into Chris. Pretending to care, he brought up the incident from 3 years ago. Bae Seok-ryu was displeased. Chris then said he regretted her leaving, calling her a manipulable magic lamp. He reached out to touch her head. Suddenly, Choi Seung-hyo grabbed Chris by the collar. Chris mocked Choi Seung-hyo's small firm for daring to take on the Grip project. Bae Seok-ryu stopped Choi Seung-hyo, fearing he would hit Chris. Chris threatened to complain about Choi Seung-hyo's company. Hearing this, Bae Seok-ryu offered to sever ties with Choi Seung-hyo's company. Chris told Bae Seok-ryu to say please when asking for favors. Furious, Bae Seok-ryu punched and kicked Chris, warning him against harming Choi Sung-hyo's company. She threatened to expose Chris's plagiarism and emotional manipulation to Grip. Afterwards, Bae Seok-ryu left alone to calm down. Choi Sung-hyo silently followed her. Seeing her tired from wearing high heels, he offered her new slippers. To cheer her up, Choi Sung-hyo wrote Chris's name on a wishing lock, adding curses, hoping he'd become fat and bald. Cursing someone with a best friend felt good. Bae Seok-ryu felt much better. Just then, a colleague called, informing them that their company had secured the Grip project. Moreover, Chris had been permanently removed from Grip. Unbeknownst to others, the colleague habitually recorded conversations, including Chris's threats. The colleague, who didn't take things lightly, followed the vice president of Grip on social media. Since Chris lacked integrity, the colleague shared the recordings with the vice president. He corrected Chris for not using honorifics towards Koreans. Chris immediately became polite, addressing the colleague respectfully. Bae Seok-ryu learned the news and excitedly hugged Choi Sung-hyo. Choi Sung-hyo remembered how Bae Seok-ryu had skipped a mock exam to watch his swimming competition. He was touched because his parents hadn't come. Only Bae Seok-ryu was there to cheer for him. Choi Sung-hyo hung his gold medal around her neck as a gift. He had liked her since they first met. Kang Dan-ho, their schoolmate, captured the moment they were together, which is why he found Bae Seok-ryu familiar. Later, Choi Sung-hyo visited Bae Seok-ryu in the USA, bringing comics that girls like. Bae Seok-ryu hugged him excitedly, and they drank together. As they got tipsy, Bae Seok-ryu slowly moved closer to Choi Sung-hyo. He thought she was going to kiss him, but she suddenly fell asleep in his arms. While studying in the US, Bae Seok-ryu was visited by Choi Seung-hyo. Overjoyed to see an old friend, Bae asked what he most wanted to do in America. Before he could answer, she took him to her dorm to drink. The next day, Choi tenderly covered Bae with a blanket and softly told her he came for her. Suddenly, Bae was awakened by a text from her boyfriend inviting her on a date. She decided to introduce Choi to her boyfriend, revealing her relationship status, which deeply disappointed Choi. From then on, Choi suppressed his feelings for Bae until a moment of embrace reignited his old affection. To celebrate Choi's company landing a new project with Gripe, Bae cooked a meal, which was delicious despite Choi's playful complaints. Jong Mo-youm, a friend, complained about being pressured by her mother to marry and expressed envy of Bae's courage. Bae, who had kept her wedding photos, shared them with her friend. Choi, returning for his wallet, saw these photos and was deeply conflicted. The next day, Choi's attitude towards Bae changed. He rejected a suggestion to involve her in the new Gripe project and expressed frustration at a dinner about people wanting to revisit the past. Bae attempted to persuade Choi to let her join the project, but he refused, leading to a heated argument. As Choi was leaving, he was embraced by his ex-girlfriend, a ceramic artist known for infidelity, who was now seeking a collaboration with him despite his cold response. Bae and a colleague gossiped about Choi's past with his ex, who overheard and, knowing her significance from Choi's frequent mentions, tried to persuade Bae to help her secure the collaboration. This led to an invitation for all employees to visit her studio, which Bae attended as an outsider. Meanwhile, Choi, unsettled by his ex's reappearance, encountered Bae's father, and they ended up drinking together, continuing even after getting drunk. The following day, Bae Seok-ryu treated the sleeping Choi Sung-hyo like a lazy brother, playfully hitting him while kneeling on the bed. Suddenly, Choi woke up and overpowered her. Her brother walked in at that moment, screamed, and ran out. Startled, Choi fell off the bed and injured his ligament, needing 2 weeks to recover. Feeling guilty, Bae volunteered to drive Choi around, taking him to his ex-girlfriend's studio. Upon arrival, the ex-girlfriend noticed Choi's injury and supported him. Bae watched silently, her interest piqued by the soybean paste pots in the yard. Excited, she eagerly observed the scene, as it was soybean paste making day and help was short. Bae volunteered enthusiastically to try making the paste. Thus, Choi was also drawn into the task. While looking for the restroom, Bae came across Choi, who was making pots. Captivated by his focused expression, she couldn't look away. The ex-girlfriend taught Choi pot making, causing Bae to feel sour and retreat, accidentally making noise with a chair. Bae joked about looking for the restroom and left following the ex-girlfriend's directions. Choi, disturbed by Bae's presence, couldn't focus on his pottery. He stood up to leave but encountered Bae, who joked about the pair being a good match. Choi sternly warned her not to make such suggestions. Sitting alone later, Choi forgot his wallet on a day he went to buy drinks. Returning home, he overheard Jong Mo-yum asking Bae if she had forgotten someone. Bae answered she still loved him. Choi, picking up his wallet, saw Bae's wedding photo on her phone, which saddened him. Unaware of his feelings, Bae earnestly helped make soybean paste. When asked to move the pots, she volunteered but accidentally dropped a jar when the cart hit a stone. Choi, rushing over, scolded her loudly for her carelessness. Bae felt sorry and wanted to stay to clean up, but the ex-girlfriend escorted her away to change into clean clothes. Bae grew angry over Choi scolding her in front of his ex, feeling humiliated. After changing, Bae helped clean up the soybean paste. Suddenly, thunder sounded, suggesting rain. Bae suggested making knife-cut noodles and everyone cooked together. After eating, Bae, who lost a game of rock, paper, scissors, washed the dishes. The ex-girlfriend came to help, making Bae feel even more guilty about the afternoon's mishap. After cleaning, the ex-girlfriend and Bae wiped the dishes together. Bae noticed scars on the ex-girlfriend's arms, who explained that they were marks of her career. The ex-girlfriend loved making pottery. Watching her talk about her passion, Bae Seok-ryu felt envious. She still didn't know what she wanted to do. The ex-girlfriend thought the solution was simple. Bae just needed to find something she loved. After cleaning up the dishes, the ex-girlfriend found Choi Sung-hyo alone. She recalled their dating days, her passion like a blazing fire compared to Choi's tiny flame in a gas stove. Unable to handle the disparity, she cheated with another passionate man. Although she broke up with Choi, she felt as if she was the one who was dumped. Seeing Choi scold Bae Seok-ryu loudly earlier, she suddenly felt envious. She envied how Bae could stir Choi's emotions, seeing him so agitated for the first time. The ex-girlfriend confessed that Bae Seok-ryu hadn't done anything wrong that afternoon. The jar already had a crack and needed mending. She should have told the truth but hid it out of jealousy. Choi felt guilty and took it upon himself to wash Bae's clothes stained with soybean paste. Watching the clothes drying outside, Bae Seok-ryu smiled and was no longer angry. She was intrigued by the soybean paste. She heard about 100-year-old soy sauce in the yard and planned to search through each jar. Unable to sleep, Choi also came outside. Bae teased him, calling him a snail girl, as he quietly helped her with the laundry. As they chatted and opened jars, Bae finally found the aged soy sauce. The dark soy sauce reflected the moonlight, inspiring her. She mentioned a few dishes related to soy sauce, and suddenly realized that dreams don't need to be grand. That night, she found what she wanted to do. She wanted to cook. Seeing Bae Seok-ryu's smile, Choi remembered the ex-girlfriend's words. He didn't realize that he always smiled when looking at Bae. At that moment, Bae's face was full of joy from finding her dream, and Choi looked at her affectionately. He had liked Bae Seok-ryu for a long time, a feeling he couldn't ignore or deny. At that moment, Bae was flipping through a kindergarten journal. She recalled pulling out her milk tooth for the first time, scaring Choi into crying. Her first bike ride, running away from home, and even her first rejection during a confession. Choi had witnessed all these pivotal moments in her life. Choi had known Bae too long and thought he understood everything about her, but he hadn't expected her dream to be making delicious food. That day, Bae's mother made many side dishes and asked her daughter to take them to Choi's family. Bae delivered the dishes and went upstairs to greet Choi, who was showering. Seizing the moment, she found and secretly read a letter Choi had stored in a time capsule. Shocked to learn he had liked her for a long time. Meanwhile, Choi, bathing, was filled with recent heartwarming moments with Bae. When he came out and saw Bae reading the letter, he panicked and lied, saying he had written it as a joke to tease her. Curious if Choi had ever liked her, Bae thought deeply as she walked to her father's snack shop. Looking at the familiar setting, she remembered making spicy rice cakes with her father and smiled, tentatively asking if she could become a chef like him. Bae Seok-ryu's father did not want his daughter to struggle with cooking like he did. Despite his lack of support, Bae Seok-ryu still wanted to learn to cook. She repeatedly watched cooking videos released during her time in the United States. Bae Seok-ryu who had once ventured alone in the US, loved cooking. It allowed her to relax while immersed in preparing dishes. Once she made up her mind, she immediately enrolled in a cooking class and was excitedly walking home when she unexpectedly ran into Choi Sung-hyo and his ex-girlfriend. The ex-girlfriend wanted to invite Bae Seok-ryu for tea, but Choi Sung-hyo quickly interrupted, stating they had business to discuss and had no time for Bae Seok-ryu. Angry, Bae Seok-ryu ranted about Choi Sung-hyo still claiming to like her, calling him a big liar. The two argued while the ex-girlfriend, who saw the situation clearly, understood their true feelings. She glanced at a carefully tended tree named after Bae Seok-ryu, realizing Choi Sung-hyo had used her as an excuse to stay away from Bae Seok-ryu on purpose. The ex-girlfriend allowed Choi Sung-hyo to freely use her for dates, confirming his own feelings. After teasing Choi Sung-hyo, the ex-girlfriend planned to invite Bae Seok-ryu for a meal to tell her something important. Frightened, Choi Sung-hyo immediately stopped her. In the evening, a tired Choi Sung-hyo ran into Kang Dan-ho after work and invited him for a drink. Kang Dan-ho, slightly embarrassed, still brought Choi Sung-hyo to his home, revealing he was a single father who needed to care for his daughter. The expected alcohol turned into milk tea. During their chat, Choi Sung-hyo shared a story about a friend who had long harbored feelings for a girl. Despite years passing and trying to control his emotions, his heart fluttered uncontrollably upon meeting her again, leading him to avoid her. Kang Dan-ho advised Choi Sung-hyo's friend to bravely confess, but Choi Sung-hyo feared a confession could irreversibly change their relationship, so he cautiously maintained it until he missed the right moment. Now he dared not entertain such thoughts anymore. Unbeknownst to Choi Sung-hyo, his conversation was overheard by Jung Mo-youm, who lived next to Kang Dan-ho. She had known about Choi Sung-hyo's feelings for Bae Seok-ryu since high school, when she sneakily read his letters and sighed, criticizing him for being as foolish as before. The next day, the adversaries met again. Bae Seok-ryu told Choi Sung-hyo it was her first lesson in Korean cuisine, and she planned to invite him to taste the food she would bring home. Choi Sung-hyo coldly used a meeting as an excuse and walked away. He went to the office, but secretly started looking up information on Korean cuisine to understand what Bae Seok-ryu was learning. That night, Choi Sung-hyo dined with a former colleague. After dinner, he unintentionally saw Bae Seok-ryu's father leaving with a drunken woman. Remembering his own childhood memories of his mother leaving with a stranger, Choi Sung-hyo, determined to prevent Bae Seok-ryu from experiencing the same, blocked her father and inquired about his relationship with the woman. Bae Seok-ryu's father, embarrassed, asked Choi Sung-hyo to keep it a secret, planning to inform his family when the time was right. Meanwhile, Bae Seok-ryu's mother noticed her husband's unusual behavior of frequently leaving early and returning late, always excusing it as attending funerals. She found a receipt for a cash advance from a credit card in his pocket at home. When her husband came home, Bae Seok-ryu's mother was furious. She always shopped for discounted groceries and lived frugally. Yet, her husband had been withdrawing cash from their credit card. Under her pressure, Bae Seok-ryu's father revealed the truth. Recently, 2 bloggers had dined at his snack bar. Mid-meal, they found a hair in their food. While inspecting it, he accidentally spilled soup, burning a blogger and wetting his expensive watch worth 30 million Korean won. The blogger demanded full compensation, saddling him with debt. To make extra money, he worked as a designated driver after closing each day. The time Choi Sung-hyo saw him, he was helping a drunk passenger. Ashamed, knowing his wife thought him foolish, he dared not tell her. Becoming sadder as he spoke, he left the house. Bae Seok-ryu caught up with her father and suggested calling the police. He refused, fearing the restaurant would be shut down for violating food hygiene laws. He felt guilty for never buying his daughter nice clothes and now incurring debt. Bae Seok-ryu, feeling like an unemployed burden, teared up, but her father proudly stated he was honored to be her father. She felt the same. Next, Bae Seok-ryu started searching for evidence of the extortion. She went to a nearby laundry to check the surveillance, but was told Choi Sung-hyo had already taken the footage. She quickly contacted him. At that moment, Choi Sung-hyo was meeting with the bloggers, claiming to be the snack bar owner's son and offering the compensation. As they were about to accept, Choi Sung-hyo asked to see the damaged watch. Upon examination, he noticed it was a top global brand. identical to the one gifted to him recently by a sponsor. He knew its series started with 245D. The blogger's watch series was 215D, clearly a cheap imitation. Choi Sung-hyo then played the laundry's front door footage, showing the bloggers preparing to drop hair into the food just before noon, then entering the store to claim there was a foreign object in their food and deliberately spilling soup on the watch to demand money. His theory was supported by the watch's time stopped at 11:45, before they even entered the shop. It was clearly broken beforehand. As Choi Sung-hyo finished, Kang Dan-ho arrived, eager to write this news story. Seeing the situation turning against them, the bloggers tried to flee. Kang Dan-ho chased one, but couldn't keep up. The blogger taunted him but accidentally ran into a utility pole and was knocked out. Choi Sung-hyo chased the other blogger, who was blocked by a red light, and thinking he had escaped, was stopped by Bae Seok-ryu appearing suddenly. The blogger shoved her, causing her to fall and bleed from overexertion. Choi Sung-hyo used his tie to stop Bae Seok-ryu's bleeding. Her brother arrived in time and caught the blogger who had deceived their father. After the incident was resolved, Bae Seok-ryu wanted to thank Choi Sung-hyo by giving him his favorite dish, which he had made for the first time in a cooking class. Choi Sung-hyo was cold towards Bae Seok-ryu. He realized he liked her, but knew she did not feel romantic love for him. He asked her to stop interfering in his life, wanting to forget her. Bae Seok-ryu caught up to him, took off a shoe, and threw it at his back, demanding him to stop. She wanted to understand what he meant by his words. In the past, during a college game of Truth or Dare, Jong Mo-youm purposefully asked Choi Sung-hyo if he had a crush. Choi Sung-hyo responded by default, leaving Bae Seok-ryu confused about who he liked. Choi Sung-hyo stayed silent, while the perceptive Jong Mo-youm had already figured everything out. Over the years, Bae Seok-ryu knew everything about Choi Sung-hyo, except for his first love. Choi Sung-hyo squats down to pick up the shoe thrown by Bae Seok-ryu and puts it on her as he begins to explain. Suddenly, voices calling for Bae Seok-ryu interrupt from behind. Her ex-fiancé appears unexpectedly, expressing his longing for her upon meeting. Choi Sung-hyo steps in front of Bae Seok-ryu, coldly treating Song Hyun-jun, who greets him. Choi Sung-hyo pulls Bae Seok-ryu away, but the man catches up and grabs her other arm. The voice of Bae Seok-ryu's father is heard, enraged at the sight of the betrayer, only thinking of avenging his daughter. The mother intervenes, taking Song Hyun-jun back home where she starts preparing a meal. After dinner, the parents inquire about the issues between them. The man quickly rules out Bae Seok-ryu's infidelity and apologizes for his mistakes. Upon clarifying the truth, Bae Seok-ryu's mother grabs a tool to hit the betrayer, but Bae Seok-ryu and her father intervene, fearing it could lead to a serious outcome. Her father embraces the mother, and Bae Seok-ryu takes the opportunity to lead the man out of the house. They sit down to talk, and Song Hyun-jun expresses his lingering feelings. Bae Seok-ryu clarifies that their relationship is over and it was never love, just habit. After making things clear, she leaves. From the moment Song Hyun-jun entered, Choi Sung-hyo had been waiting outside, coincidentally meeting Jong Mo-youm. At the convenience store, Choi Sung-hyo shares the situation, looking distressed. Jong Mo-youm, acknowledging her awareness of his feelings from a time capsule, encourages him to move beyond unrequited love, fully supporting a potential relationship. Jong Mo-youm returns home, and Bae Seok-ryu suddenly arrives, wanting to stay for the night. Curious about their conversation, Jong Mo-youm recalls a past instance when Choi Sung-hyo went back to get his wallet and buy more drinks. Bae Seok-ryu had confessed her ongoing love for Song Hyun-jun, but only for the shared moments, feeling nothing during their recent encounter. Reassured by Bae Seok-ryu's words, Jong Mo-youm goes to sleep. However, Bae Seok-ryu stays awake, contemplating calling Choi Sung-hyo, who is also drunkenly looking at her number, both hesitating to dial. Bae Seok-ryu's mother, reconsidering Song Hyun-jun's unexpected visit, thinks a reconciliation might be possible, suggesting they could return to the US to restore Bae Seok-ryu's life. After receiving a message from Song Hyun-jun wanting another meeting, the mother hopes her daughter would reconsider their relationship and personally selects a dress for her, urging her to make up before going out. Bae Seok-ryu follows her mother's request, but sees Song Hyun-jun waiting outside. Just then, Choi Sung-hyo arrives on his bike, urging her to get on as they are late for a cooking class. Bae Seok-ryu gets on the bike, and Choi Sung-hyo critiques her outfit, calling her ugly today, which she responds to by hitting his waist. For safety, she wraps her arms around him. Choi Sung-hyo wants to know about their conversation last night, guessing the man came to seek reconciliation, and is angered by the thought of Bae Seok-ryu possibly agreeing, feeling it would be undignified. Bae Seok-ryu was angered and ordered Choi Sung-hyo to stop the car. Choi Sung-hyo abruptly stopped, causing Bae Seok-ryu to hit her face against his back, leaving a circle of foundation marks. She walked angrily to class. During the class, she imagined the ingredients were Choi Seong-hyo and chopped the vegetables fiercely. After class, Song Hyun-jun was waiting outside her home. He saw that Bae Seok-ryu was determined not to get back together. He suggested having one last meal with her, which Bae Seok-ryu accepted, suspecting her mother was trying to create an opportunity for them to reconcile. She declared that her decision would not change, and that she and Song Hyun-jun were over. Bae Seok-ryu went out for a walk and encountered Choi Sung-hyo, who expressed concern for her safety, advising against walking alone at night due to the dangers. Bae Seok-ryu ignored his advice and continued walking into a deserted alley, feeling someone following her. Panicked, she ran into a dead end. Turning around, she saw Choi Sung-hyo behind her, which relieved her. She scolded him for scaring her, suggesting he should have called out her name. Choi Sung-hyo thought the problem was with Bae Seok-ryu. Had she looked back, she would not have run aimlessly. They argued over this issue. Choi Sung-hyo realized this was their biggest problem. He had followed her out of concern and to speak to her, but it turned into a theoretical argument instead, preventing him from conveying his original intentions. He had come to answer a question from that night, but Bae Seok-ryu stopped him from continuing as Song Hyun-jun's sudden appearance disrupted her life, and she couldn't take more information. She wanted to hear the rest later. Choi Sung-hyo agreed to wait until she was ready to listen. He questioned whether she would continue seeing Song Hyun-jun, to which she replied negatively, assuring she had no such plans. Relieved, Choi Sung-hyo advised her to go home and promised to follow silently, ensuring her safety without needing her to look back. The next day, Choi Sung-hyo's ex-girlfriend visited him again. They went out to eat and coincidentally sat next to Bae Seok-ryu and Song Hyun-jun. The ex-girlfriend felt uncomfortable and wanted to change seats, but Choi Sung-hyo insisted on staying. Both Bae Seok-ryu and Choi Sung-hyo eavesdropped on each other's conversations. Song Hyun-jun noticed Bae Seok-ryu's lunchbox, heard she was studying cooking, and suggested she study further in the US. He asked to taste her cooking from the class. The waiter allowed it, and Song Hyun-jun appreciated her skills after tasting the food. Hearing this, Choi Sung-hyo, irritated, cut his steak fiercely. His ex-girlfriend then mentioned having met Choi Sung-hyo and inquired about their relationship, to which she bluntly replied that Choi Sung-hyo was her ambiguous partner. Choi Sung-hyo hopes his ex-girlfriend won't lie. He dislikes liars and those who break promises. For instance, saying one moment they won't meet someone and the next, they backtrack. Bae Seok-ryu chokes on water, and Song Hyun-jun rushes to help, wanting to take care of everything for Bae Seok-ryu. Feeling embarrassed, Bae Seok-ryu heads to the restroom and encounters Choi Sung-hyo leaving. The two jealous individuals accuse each other of hypocrisy. Despite discussing work, they dine at a restaurant. Choi Sung-hyo mocks Bae Seok-ryu and Song Hyun-jun's meal together. On the way back, Bae Seok-ryu repeatedly states he hopes it's their last meeting. Meanwhile, Choi Sung-hyo receives a call from a high school teacher and heads to the gym. His gym design has won a competition, and the teacher comes to congratulate him, asking if he has informed Bae Seok-ryu. Days earlier, Bae Seok-ryu had called the teacher to inquire about the competition results, unaware that Bae Seok-ryu was keenly following the gym renovation and frequently asked about Choi Sung-hyo's design-winning awards. Learning this excites Choi Sung-hyo, recalling Jong Mo-yoom's encouraging words, which fill him with courage. He calls Bae Seok-ryu and goes to her location. He had many chances to express his feelings. At high school graduation, during a mixer in Bae Seok-ryu's college days, and when she announced her plans to move to the US, but cowardice made him miss these opportunities. This time, Choi Sung-hyo doesn't back down. He runs up to Bae Seok-ryu, declaring he's going crazy and might lose his mind because he likes her. Bae Seok-ryu freezes, accidentally burns her hand with a pot lid, and Choi Sung-hyo runs her hand underwater. Realizing he just confessed, he becomes shy. Bai Seok-ryu quickly withdraws her hand, stating her choice of cooking means often dealing with such incidents. However, Choi Sung-hyo still worries about her, fearing she might do something foolish or encounter bad people. He wants only good people around her. Before Bae Seok-ryu can respond to the confession, she's interrupted. Choi Sung-hyo decides to give her time to think. Unbeknownst to him, Bae Seok-ryu has liked him for years, since they were children, but she had forgotten until his confession reignited those feelings. Tonight, both are emotionally turbulent. Choi Sung-hyo paces, unsure how to face Bae Seok-ryu tomorrow. He peeks across to her room and sees she's not asleep. Bae Seok-ryu tries meditating and chopping vegetables to calm down, but remains restless, also sneaking peeks at Choi Sung-hyo's room. They both miss each other's glances and spend the night awake. In the morning, Bae Seok-ryu covers her dark circles and finds Choi Sung-hyo's tie, which he used to stop her bleeding. She dresses up and returns the tie. Choi Sung-hyo jokes he'll take the tie to his grave, but Bae Seok-ryu says she wants to grow old with him safely. Realizing her slip, she stammers, amusing Choi Sung-hyo, who refrains from teasing her. Bae Seok-ryu was very angry and deliberately asked Choi Sung-hyo if he could indefinitely answer his question from last night. Choi Sung-hyo did not want to wait until he was old for Bae Seok-ryu's answer. They went to the supermarket and decided to determine the response time based on the product's shelf life. Choi Sung-hyo planned to choose fresh milk with the shortest shelf life. As Choi Sung-hyo carefully selected the milk, Bae Seok-ryu's heart raced and, feeling shy, he moved away from Choi Sung-hyo. Seeing Bae Seok-ryu leave, Choi Sung-hyo took a photo of the milk and sent it to her. Bae Seok-ryu saw the 11-day expiration and exclaimed in surprise. Meanwhile, Bae Seok-ryu's mother was watching a TV drama with her friends when she received a text from Song Hyun-jun, who wanted to meet her. She went to meet him, curious about his intentions. The fiancé kept apologizing. He had come to win back Bae Seok-ryu and take her back to the United States, still loving her. Bae Seok-ryu's father, upon finding out his wife met the fiancé secretly, demanded to know what they discussed. Excited, his wife proclaimed that Bae Seok-ryu would soon return to the United States, infuriating Bae Seok-ryu's father. He accused her of using their daughter as a bargaining chip to boast about herself, disregarding Bae Seok-ryu's feelings and supporting her return to the U.S. with the unworthy man. Bae Seok-ryu's mother simply did not want her daughter to live a poor and pitiful life like hers. Her words left Bae Seok-ryu's father bitter and lonely, and he left. The next day, Bae Seok-ryu's brother came asking their mother for money to invest in his influencer project. Bae Seok-ryu called her brother a parasite, accusing him of leeching off their mother. Angry, her brother retorted that Bae Seok-ryu was a leech just like him and stormed off. Bae Seok-ryu blamed her mother for spoiling her brother. When he was young, a hole in his heart required him not to be upset. But though it healed naturally, their mother still coddled him. Heartbroken, Bae Seok-ryu left. She saw a message from Choi Sung-hyo reminding her to hurry up with her answer, which made her smile happily. Song Hyun-jun appeared on Bae Seok-ryu's way to class with a cup of jasmine tea, a nod to their first memory together in a coffee shop in the US, where they first met over a borrowed charger. Noticing Bae Seok-ryu had been drinking a lot of coffee, he had offered her a stomach-friendly jasmine tea. Now, he wanted to start over, handing her the same tea before leaving. Bae Seok-ryu finished her cooking class, and her mother, passing by, learned from others that she had just left a cooking class. That evening, Bae Seok-ryu returned home to find Choi Sung-hyo in the living room, invited by her brother. She complained to her returning mother that her brother was not only asking for money, but also scheming against Choi Sung-hyo. However, her mother was furious and pulled out cooking materials from Bae Seok-ryu's bag. Bae Seok-ryu admitted she was taking cooking classes, aspiring to work in culinary arts, which her father could not accept, arguing it rendered her education and degree useless. He accused her of lacking the perseverance needed to succeed in the culinary world after resigning from a decade-long corporate job. Bae Seok-ryu's brother returned home, which upset Bae Seok-ryu. She accused her parents of being too harsh on her. Both siblings are their parents' children. She wondered why nothing ever seemed to go right. Her brother, who easily gives up, receives their parents' support. Meanwhile, Bae Seok-ryu has always strived to excel to avoid burdening her parents. She couldn't understand why her parents could tolerate her brother's shortcomings for a lifetime but not accept her making different choices. Bae Seok-ryu didn't want to discuss it anymore and left home. Choi Sung-hyo followed her to a small park, holding her hand. She couldn't help but wonder if Choi Sung-hyo had brought his ex-girlfriend here too. Making a joke, Choi Sung-hyo mentioned that Bae Seok-ryu knew a lot about his past, which seemed disadvantageous for his pursuit of her. Looking at the tree blossoms that resembled popcorn and seemed tasty, and watching the petals fall, Bae Seok-ryu felt a sense of healing. She felt embarrassed about what had happened at home, as if Choi Sung-hyo had witnessed all her embarrassing moments. Choi Sung-hyo knew her embarrassing history well, which agitated her. He understood her feelings. Parents aren't always right and can make mistakes. Arguing with parents can lead to guilt, but complying with them can betray one's own feelings. Bae Seok-ryu felt she had found someone who understood her. Now her only worry was where she would practice cooking, as she couldn't go to her father's snack bar. Choi Sung-hyo offered her to practice at his company after others had left, which resolved her last concern, improving her mood. Choi Sung-hyo reminded her from behind that she had 9 days left to respond to him. The next day, Bae Seok-ryu arrived at Choi Sung-hyo's company at the agreed time, accompanied by Song Hyun-jun, who needed consultation on a construction issue. As rivals in love, their conversation returned to Bae Seok-ryu. Song Hyun-jun was confident that their relationship wasn't something that could be easily ended. He still had a chance. Choi Seong-hyo didn't care why Song Hyun-jun was so confident. He only trusted what Bae Seok-ryu said, feeling a sense of crisis. He also admitted that his trust in Bae Seok-ryu wasn't just from a friend's perspective. Song Hyun-jun stayed in the company, hovering around Bae Seok-ryu as she cooked. Choi Sung-hyo tried to impress her by bringing out popcorn prepared for her. Just as Bae Seok-ryu was about to eat, Song Hyun-jun snatched it away, claiming it was unhealthy. Bae Seok-ryu didn't care and stuffed the food into her mouth, enjoying the flavor. Choi Sung-hyo was delighted, feeling he had won over Song Hyun-jun. Later, as Bae Seok-ryu served the food they had cooked, both men began to eat. Suddenly, Bae Seok-ryu felt severe stomach pain and crouched down. Choi Sung-hyo wanted to take her to the hospital, but Bae Seok-ryu insisted that Song Hyun-jun take her. Lying in the hospital bed, she informed the doctor that she had previously been diagnosed with stage 2 stomach cancer, had undergone chemotherapy, and had 70% of her stomach removed. Choi Seong-hyo sat disheartened in the company, not understanding why Bae Seok-ryu chose Song Hyun-jun over him. Bae Seok-ryu, feeling unwell, was taken away by Song Hyun-jun. Choi Seong-hyo was very anxious and searched all nearby hospitals. He finally found Bae Seok-ryu, who had already been discharged. Choi Seong-hyo and Song Hyun-jun then argued over who should take her home. Both looked nervously at Bae Seok-ryu, who chose Choi Seong-hyo. He drove her home and opened the car door for her, which was unusual, as Bae Seok-ryu often felt treated like a servant by him. Inside, she felt conflicted and watched Choi Sung-hyo drive away. Back home, Bae Seok-ryu saw the light in her mother's room still on. She remembered when she first got cancer and planned to tell her mother, but couldn't say it out loud after hearing her mother's caring words on the phone. She cried after hanging up, comforting herself that she could tell her parents after recovering. However, she hadn't fully recovered yet. Choi Sung-hyo was restless tonight after seeing Bae Seok-ryu choose Song Hyun-jun. He vented to Jung Mo-yum, admitting his jealousy of Song Hyun-jun. Although he claimed to be uninterested in Bae Seok-ryu and Song Hyun-jun's past, he was actually very curious. He wanted to know what exactly happened between them. But Bae Seok-ryu just didn't want to show her vulnerability in front of him. The next day, Choi Seong-hyo waited at Bae Seok-ryu's door and brought her delicious, stomach-friendly porridge. Bae Seok-ryu ate quickly and then had stomach pain. She excused herself to the restroom, where she crouched in pain. When leaving, Choi Sung-hyo gave her a big bag of stomach medicine. She cursed him as a fool as he left. After a cooking class, Bae Seok-ryu met Song Hyun-jun, who had waited for her. He brought information from a renowned cooking school in the USA and proposed they go back to the USA to continue their unfinished wedding. He also gave her a ring, which she put back on. That night, Bae Seok-ryu talked to Choi Sung-hyo, who was about to ask why she chose Song Hyun-jun that evening. Bae Seok-ryu revealed that Song Hyun-jun had proposed again. She considered restarting their relationship, recalling sweet memories. Choi Seung-hyo questioned her sincerity. Bae Seok-ryu confessed she had always seen him as her childhood friend, not a romantic interest, while he had mistaken their bond for romantic feelings. Choi Seung-hyo was saddened, but didn't want her to judge his feelings lightly. Bae Seok-ryu didn't know how to respond. Choi Seung-hyo faced troubles at work and felt down. When Bae Seok-ryu's mother saw him upset, she invited him for dinner and left him alone at their house. Hearing noises, Bae Seok-ryu came out of her bedroom and saw only Choi Seung-hyo. Seeing the milk, she felt she shouldn't avoid the issue, but should give Choi Seung-hyo a clear answer. She told him that he could never be more than a friend. However, their friendship was no longer the same after Bae Seok-ryu rejected him. Bae Seok-ryu returned to her room after speaking. She had her reasons for rejecting Choi Seung-hyo. After her surgery and chemotherapy for stomach cancer, Bae Seok-ryu felt almost recovered and immediately applied to return to work. She believed she could overcome adversity through sheer will. However, work setbacks and regular hospital visits led to her depression, and her smile gradually faded. Song Hyun-jun was relieved after confirming she was seeing her doctor and taking her medication regularly. He knew this was the way for Bae Seok-ryu to get better. Despite this, Bae Seok-ryu's situation was not optimistic. She overheard Chris badmouthing her, referring to an incident 3 years ago when Bae Seok-ryu was diagnosed with cancer. Chris mocked her as a workhorse, sick from overwork, yet quickly returning to her job. Bae Seok-ryu felt desperate listening to her colleagues pity her. Unable to contact Song Hyun-jun, she went to a party he was attending. From her vantage point, it seemed Song Hyun-jun was kissing another woman. Approaching them, Bae Seok-ryu pulled him away and saw the contact lens on his finger, realizing her mistake. He was only helping a colleague. Bae Seok-ryu expressed her discontent about them nearly marrying and her ongoing pain, while Song Hyun-jun seemed more interested in socializing, showing little concern for her. Song Hyun-jun revealed he just wanted a break. Since Bae Seok-ryu's illness, he had lost the life he loved, staying devotedly by her side. He had hoped the strong Bae Seok-ryu could overcome the difficulties, but depression changed everything, straining their relationship. Song Hyun-jun couldn't understand why Bae Seok-ryu couldn't return to her former self despite treatment. He asked her to pull herself together instead of dragging him down. Realizing the issues between them, Bae Seok-ryu firmly ended the relationship. When Song Hyun-jun came back, offering the wedding ring again, she did not accept it. Aware of her precarious health and potential relapse, she knew she couldn't devote herself to loving someone else. That evening, Choi Seung-hyo was still at the dining table. Bae Seok-ryu, looking at her surgical scars, reassured herself that rejecting Choi Seung-hyo was the right decision, sparing him from wasting time on her. Choi Seung-hyo, feeling unwell, went to work but was forced by his colleagues to go home and rest. In bed, he imagined Bae Seok-ryu by his side. Waking up, he found Bae Seok-ryu, who had fallen asleep while caring for him with a towel on his forehead. Bae Seok-ryu groggily opened her eyes and began explaining. She had come to take care of Choi Seung-hyo after receiving a message from a male colleague. Choi Seung-hyo was very indifferent and asked her to leave. Ignoring him, Bae Seok-ryu went to the kitchen to prepare food. Alone in the room, Choi Seung-hyo picked up the bag Bae Seok-ryu had carelessly dropped on the floor. Inside, he found hospital documents. Opening them, he saw clearly written details. Bae Seok-ryu had surgery for stomach cancer 3 years ago and was recently hospitalized again for abdominal pain and underwent further tests. Choi Seung-hyo was shocked, his eyes reddening. Bae Seok-ryu, fighting the urge to cry, began packing to leave. Choi Seung-hyo caught up with her and questioned her about undergoing stomach cancer surgery alone. Just as he finished speaking, Bae Seok-ryu's mother's voice came from the doorway. She had heard Choi Seung-hyo was ill and had come to bring food. Hearing the conversation, she was shocked, and seeing her daughter crying, understood everything. She hugged Bae Seok-ryu, repeatedly asking if it was true. Bae Seok-ryu confessed that she had indeed been sick and had surgery in the US 3 years ago. Bae Seok-ryu's mother took her home, lifted her clothes, saw the surgery scars, and finally believed her daughter. Bae Seok-ryu's father and brother also learned of her cancer and reproached her for keeping it from them. Bae Seok-ryu cried and apologized to her mother, who stormed off to the basement and began furiously playing the drums. Reflecting on how she had never shown her daughter kindness and often scolded her, Bae Seok-ryu's mother felt immense guilt and broke down crying. Choi Sung-hyo's self-reproach was no less than Bae Seok-ryu's mother's. 3 years earlier, Choi Sung-hyo had happened to be on a business trip in the US. Jung Mo-yum suggested he meet Bae Seok-ryu. Although Choi Sung-hyo claimed the 6-hour flight was too far, he was already in Bae Seok-ryu's city. He went to places she frequented to surprise her, but unexpectedly saw Song Hyun-jun helping her away. At that time, Choi Sung-hyo didn't know Bae Seok-ryu was ill and felt very disappointed. Afterwards, he buried his feelings and chose not to contact her. Over 3 years, Bae Seok-ryu kept texting Choi Sung-hyo on every holiday and his birthday each year, but he never replied. Now, Choi Sung-hyo deeply regretted not confronting Bae Seok-ryu earlier to ask about her health. The next day, Choi Sung-hyo's talkative mother told her sisters about Bae Seok-ryu's past cancer, including Jung Mo-yum's mother. Jung Mo-yum, about to go to work, overheard and confronted Bae Seok-ryu directly. Bae Seok-ryu quickly confessed and pleaded with her best friend. Jung Mo-yum couldn't stay angry and hugged her. Bae Seok-ryu was very touched, and the friends joked and laughed together, lifting Bae Seok-ryu's spirits significantly. Meanwhile, Choi Sung-hyo's father, treating an emergency patient, accidentally saw Bae Seok-ryu's name in the emergency records and learned of her cancer. Choi Sung-hyo called to meet with my father. He wanted to know if Bae Seok-ryu had fully recovered from her illness. My father could not disclose patient information, but assured that Bae Seok-ryu would be safe. In the evening, Bae Seok-ryu went for a walk outside and unexpectedly met Choi Sung-hyo. They went to the park. Bae Seok-ryu noticed Choi Sung-hyo was avoiding her. She understood the feeling, as she had cancer herself. Choi Sung-hyo was unsure if words of comfort could make Bae Seok-ryu feel better. He was afraid of saying the wrong things, just like my parents at home. Everyone was tiptoeing around Bae Seok-ryu. She hid her illness because she didn't want others to suffer with her. This made Choi Sung-hyo angry. He thought Bae Seok-ryu was being selfish by thinking she was protecting everyone. In reality, by hiding such a serious illness, she hurt those who loved her the most. Even through the pain, because everyone loved Bae Seok-ryu, they could support each other and stand up again. Bae Seok-ryu didn't want to discuss further and hurried back home. Choi Sung-hyo, left standing, felt very agitated. He turned around and saw Song Hyun-jun. The man was inspired by Choi Sung-hyo's outburst. He should have expressed his emotions earlier rather than accumulating bad moods until they exploded. Song Hyun-jun confessed that a year after her surgery, Bae Seok-ryu developed depression. When Bae Seok-ryu returned home, she overheard her parents talking. Her illness reminded her mother of many things. When Bae Seok-ryu was 3, her mother was taking care of her and her younger sibling. Both children cried at night, and her mother scolded Bae Seok-ryu for not being more understanding and making the parents tired. Bae Seok-ryu became more considerate, trying not to trouble her parents, who were just relieved their daughter made things easier for them, never becoming her support. The parents could not help crying. Bae Seok-ryu, outside the door, listened to their confessions and cried herself. The next day, her mother came to call Bae Seok-ryu for breakfast. She pushed the door open to find her daughter was not in the room and had not taken her cell phone. Her mother panicked and immediately contacted Choi Sung-hyo. Choi Sung-hyo left work and searched all the places Bae Seok-ryu frequented. Finally, he drove to the beach and found her on the sand. Choi Sung-hyo scolded Bae Seok-ryu for leaving alone. Bae Seok-ryu explained she was feeling down and came to the beach to clear her mind, leaving her phone behind to avoid disturbances. Choi Sung-hyo mentioned her depression and yelled at her again. He was furious that Bae Seok-ryu internalized all the bad things without sharing them with loved ones. Bae Seok-ryu didn't want to argue and tried to leave. Choi Sung-hyo grabbed her and threw her into the sea to snap her out of her gloom. Now it was Bae Seok-ryu's turn to be angry. She felt it was unfair that Choi Sung-hyo was always blaming her, even though she was the one who was sick. Choi Sung-hyo realized he was angry at himself. Over the past few years, Bae Seok-ryu had reached out to him, signaling, "I am struggling," but he hadn't noticed in time. Bae Seok-ryu could no longer hold back her emotions and started hitting Choi Sung-hyo. In her toughest moments, she thought of relying on Choi Sung-hyo and had called and texted him, but he didn't answer or reply. After Bai Seok Ryu vented, Choi Sung-hyo bought her a drink. On his way, he heard from Bai Seok Ryu's mother that the results were already visible on Bai Seok Ryu's phone. Choi Sung-hyo handed him the phone and asked Bai Seok Ryu to call the hospital for the results. Regardless of the outcome, he promised to stay by Bai Seok Ryu's side. Bai Seok Ryu did not refuse, took the phone, and made the call. He found out he only had gastritis, which greatly relieved him. Choi Sung-hyo, thrilled, hugged his beloved tightly. Bai Seok Ryu let Choi Sung-hyo hold him. In the evening, Choi Sung-hyo drove Bai Seok Ryu home and took her to his father's snack bar. As Bai Seok Ryu entered and turned on the light, she saw a banner hanging in front, welcoming her back to the country. She felt embarrassed as she had been back for a while. Choi Sung-hyo was also embarrassed since it was his idea. While buying a drink for Bai Seok Ryu, he had called her mother to suggest a welcome party. Everyone sat down, and Bai Seok Ryu's mother spoke, emphasizing that family means sharing not just the good times, but also facing hardships together. This would be the family's motto moving forward. Bai Seok Ryu was moved and enjoyed the food her father made. Later, while walking home, Bai Seok Ryu exclaimed she had eaten too much and felt like her stomach would burst, causing everyone to become alert, fearing she might be unwell. She quickly explained she had just overeaten, reassuring everyone. Song Hyun-jun appeared nearby, seeing Bai Seok Ryu smiling. He suddenly realized what he needed to do. He called her, deciding it would be the last time he initiated contact. He had loved her deeply, but realized he had made mistakes. He had focused on how to help her recover quickly, forgetting that perhaps facing challenges together was the better choice. Returning to Korea made him realize that Bai Seok Ryu should stay there, and he wasn't the right man for her. He hoped they wouldn't regret the past. Before leaving, Choi Sung-hyo burst into Bai Seok Ryu's room and dragged her to the airport to see him one last time. During the day, Choi Sung-hyo received a message from him, bidding farewell and entrusting Bai Seok Ryu to Choi Sung-hyo. At the airport, Bai Seok Ryu regretted not dressing up, but Song Hyun-jun didn't mind. He believed Bai Seok Ryu always shone brightly. He wanted to shake her hand goodbye, thinking Choi Sung-hyo wouldn't mind such minimal contact. Seeing them shake hands, Choi Sung-hyo felt a pang of jealousy and turned away. Song Hyun-jun urged Bai Seok Ryu to be happy and stay healthy before turning to enter the airport. Bai Seok Ryu couldn't help crying, marking the end of their relationship. Those happy times were cherished memories. Choi Sung-hyo took off his coat and draped it over her, letting her cry freely while he stood by her side. Bai Seok Ryu looked at her swollen, teary eyes, quickly applied a face mask, and opened the window. This startled Choi Sung-hyo, who was standing outside. Bai Seok Ryu was about to scold him, but heard her mother hurrying her. Choi Sung-hyo then boldly entered Bai Seok Ryu's house to share a meal. The family gathered around a large dining basin, laughing and enjoying a warm atmosphere. Choi Sung-hyo admired the family portrait of Bai Seok Ryu's family. After the meal, Choi Sung-hyo noticed Bai Seok Ryu struggling with a French cookbook and offered to translate for her. As he translated, Bai Seok Ryu fell asleep. Choi Sung-hyo watched her fondly and also fell asleep. When Bai Seok Ryu woke up, she saw a rainbow reflected on Choi Sung-hyo's neck and reached out to touch it. Surprised, Choi Sung-hyo opened his eyes, and both felt embarrassed. Choi Sung-hyo left in a panic, accidentally knocked over by the door. Jung Mo-yum, watching his face, guessed that Choi Sung-hyo must have received a response from Bai Seok Ryu today. Choi Sung-hyo, feeling dejected, denied it, explaining that he saw Bai Seok Ryu crying at the airport the previous day and did not want to burden her. Despite the milk nearing expiration, he did not press her for an answer. Jung Mo-yum, seeing Choi Sung-hyo hesitating again, couldn't help but criticize. In the evening, Choi Sung-hyo waited anxiously with the milk for Bai Seok Ryu's response. Bai Seok Ryu was also nervous, watching the expiration date on the milk, intending to contact Choi Sung-hyo, but lacking the courage. By midnight, the milk expired without a response from her. The next morning, Bai Seok Ryu started learning to cook French cuisine. Her parents returned just in time, and she quickly covered the pot, fearing their reproach. However, seeing her passion for cooking, they no longer objected and even comfortingly told her it was okay to give up and come home if she was tired. Bai Seok Ryu was deeply moved by their support. However, Choi Sung-hyo's home atmosphere was not harmonious. His mother worked in the foreign ministry, and her demanding job meant she rarely spent time with her husband. After enduring this for 20 years, his father finally asked for a divorce, which his wife agreed to without asking why. Choi Sung-hyo took his parents to a hard-to-book restaurant only to hear about their divorce. He supported his parents' decision as it was their life, but he could not hold back his tears and left hurriedly. Choi Sung-hyo drank alone, reminiscing about his childhood when his mother, serving as a Korean ambassador, often stayed in different countries for years due to her job. His father blamed her for neglecting the family for her career, and when her boss called, his father suspected she had ulterior motives for going abroad. Regretting her marriage and even regretting having Choi Sung-hyo, his mother expressed these thoughts, which Choi Sung-hyo overheard. Meanwhile, Bae Seok-ryu was listening to the recording of Choi Sung-hyo translating the French cookbook when she received a call from a street vendor who found Choi Sung-hyo drunk by the roadside. Bae Seok-ryu struggled to drag him to a bench and urged him to go home once sober. Choi Sung-hyo said he did not want to go home. He told Bae Seok-ryu about the meal he had with his parents, the first since his college graduation. He envied the family portrait at Bae Seok-ryu's house each time he visited. Today, during their rare meal together, he learned of their impending divorce. Choi Sung-hyo couldn't stop his tears. Bae Seok-ryu comforted him by gently patting his back. Bae Seok-ryu drove Choi Sung-hyo back to the office. While getting water, he accidentally saw that bottle of milk. Choi Sung-hyo quickly explained that he had just forgotten to throw it away. He casually adjusted Bae Seok-ryu's collar, which stirred some feelings in Bae Seok-ryu. The day Choi Sung-hyo's mother was leaving, she promised to stay in touch and try to return for his birthday. Choi Sung-hyo had heard such promises since childhood. He used to wait eagerly for his mother, but now, he no longer held any hope for her. Choi Sung-hyo left the house indifferently. His mother packed her bags and went to the airport alone. Choi Sung-hyo stayed in the office. Bae Seok-ryu brought a photo found at home from a time when their families had a barbecue together. Bae Seok-ryu's father had taken a family photo for Choi Sung-hyo's family. This photo had always been at Bae Seok-ryu's house, and she brought it especially for Choi Sung-hyo. Bae Seok-ryu suggested he should go to the airport to see off his mother. Choi Sung-hyo was about to contact his father, but received a call from him first. According to his father, Choi Sung-hyo went to the police station. The police found his mother's luggage at the station, but his mother was missing. Choi Sung-hyo called his mother's phone, and the ringtone came from inside the suitcase. It seemed she had locked her phone inside. Choi Sung-hyo tried to unlock the suitcase, and finally his father opened it using their wedding anniversary date. Choi Sung-hyo's father retrieved his wife's phone and called her boss to find out where she might have gone, believing she was supposed to go abroad for work. Her boss informed him that she had decided to retire, noticing some issues as she occasionally forgot about her upcoming retirement and still wanted to work. Realizing something was wrong, her husband contacted friends to search for her. At that moment, Choi Sung-hyo's mother was at a temple. She tried to take her phone out of her bag, but found a remote control instead. She looked for her suitcase, but it wasn't there. She didn't know why she was at the temple, hurried down the mountain, and accidentally twisted her ankle, falling down the slope, leaving one shoe behind. Inspired by a conversation with her boss, Choi Sung-hyo and his group went to the temple to look for her. Staff confirmed she had been there. They found a wish she had written, hoping to always remember her husband and son, despite often forgetting recent events. Reading her words, father and son felt deeply conflicted. They followed the mountain path back, planning to continue searching below. Choi Sung-hyo spotted his mother's fallen shoe. They guessed she might be down the slope. The father took a shortcut down the steep slope to search, while Choi Sung-hyo and Bae Seok-ryu took the easier path to meet him. The father found his wife first and covered her with a jacket. Seeing her familiar husband, she felt very wronged. She knew she was ill and had lied about an overseas assignment to avoid being abandoned by him. Choi Sung-hyo's father, who had always deeply loved his wife, would never let her go. Over the years, he had seen her close to her boss and mistakenly thought she liked him, so he could only watch her from a distance. Choi Sung-hyo's mother wanted to get closer to her husband, but she couldn't understand why he was becoming more distant. This opportunity helped the couple clear up their misunderstandings. Choi Sung-hyo and Bae Seok-ryu arrived later. Seeing his mother, Choi Sung-hyo broke down emotionally. He felt invisible at home. Whether it was about work assignments or divorce, his parents never asked for his opinion or cared about his feelings. His greatest wish was to have a meal with his parents. His mother apologized to Choi Seung-hyo. She still remembered feeling guilty when she saw how her harsh words had affected him. She spent the whole night by his side, explaining that she had spoken rashly out of anger. Choi Seung-hyo approached and held his mother's hand, and they embraced. She regretted not showing him enough maternal love. Choi Seung-hyo's father carried his wife down the mountain, not wanting any other man to take care of his woman. With his mother safe at home, Choi Seung-hyo could focus on work. He had a business trip to Gangwon-do the next day, planning to return in about 2 weeks. He told Bae Seok-ryu in advance, suggesting she could visit him if she got bored. Though Bae Seok-ryu claimed she wouldn't be bored, she often checked her phone for messages from Choi Seung-hyo after he left. Eventually, she admitted feeling lonely without him and started listening to the translated recipes he had recorded. At the end of one recording, while she was asleep, Choi Seung-hyo whispered in French. Using translation software, Bae Seok-ryu learned he had said, "Milk has an expiration date, but my feelings for you never will." Suddenly inspired, Bae Seok-ryu borrowed a car from Jong Mo-yum and drove to where Choi Seung-hyo was on business. She confessed that time passed slowly without him, and everything seemed dull. Hearing this, Choi Seung-hyo walked up and kissed her. After their kiss, Bae Seok-ryu asked about their relationship. Choi Seung-hyo joked that they were in a kissed relationship. When Bae Seok-ryu started to get upset, he added that he wouldn't kiss just any friend, hinting at a deeper relationship, which delighted Bae Seok-ryu. When colleagues invited Bae Seok-ryu to dinner, Choi Seung-hyo asked what everyone liked to eat. A female colleague shyly admitted she only liked Choi Seung-hyo, which angered Bae Seok-ryu. That night, the couple chatted in the yard. Choi Seung-hyo looked at Bae Seok-ryu with affection. Despite knowing each other for 30 years, he never felt bored. Bae Seok-ryu playfully messed up his hair and snuggled close, falling asleep securely. Choi Seung-hyo's emotional journey was smooth. After his parents reconciled, his father asserted his devotion to his wife by confronting her boss, demanding he not sway her emotions. Though the boss was handsome, he explained they were just colleagues and admitted his preference for men. Realizing the misunderstanding, Choi Seung-hyo's father hastily followed his wife as they left. Later, the couple went to the hospital for test results. Choi Seung-hyo's mother did not have Alzheimer's disease but was experiencing temporary amnesia due to recent stress or a shock. The couple both breathed a sigh of relief. Choi Seung-hyo's father collapsed in the hallway, overwhelmed with emotion. He was terrified that his wife might forget him. Without her, he felt he couldn't survive. Seeing her beloved husband distressed, Choi Seung-hyo's mother embraced him tightly. Meanwhile, to be with Bae Seok-ryu, Choi Seung-hyo drove her back to Seoul. As they arrived at her home, Bae Seok-ryu's mother appeared suddenly, urging her daughter to go on a blind date. Earlier that day, Bae Seok-ryu's mother and her friends had discussed introducing a suitor to Bae Seok-ryu, suggested by Jong Mo-yum's mother. Worried about a misunderstanding, Bae Seok-ryu repeatedly declined. Fortunately, Jong Mo-yum arrived to pick up the car and saw the two together. She asked if they were dating and was genuinely happy for her friend upon confirmation. To prevent others from arranging more blind dates for Bae Seok-ryu, Choi Seung-hyo wanted to make their relationship public. However, Bae Seok-ryu refused, fearing the awkwardness if they broke up given their family's close ties. Disappointed, Choi Seung-hyo respected her decision. The next day, Bae Seok-ryu called Choi Seung-hyo, but a female colleague saw and she quickly ended the call. Choi Seung-hyo rebuked the colleague for being intrusive and sternly told her he was already in love with someone else, asking her to keep her distance to not discomfort his girlfriend. Later, Choi Seung-hyo invited Bae Seok-ryu to a movie. She happily rushed over but found Choi Seung-hyo busy with work, and he was very serious even during the movie. On the way home, as they walked side by side, Choi Seung-hyo hesitated to hold her hand. Bae Seok-ryu waited for him to make a move. Seeing no response, she reached for his hand, but Choi Seung-hyo suddenly stopped. To keep their relationship hidden from elders, he only escorted her part way. Bae Seok-ryu angrily walked home alone. She attended her cooking class on time and made a royal beef dish she planned to share with Choi Seung-hyo. He was busy outside, but they agreed to meet at his office that evening. Bae Seok-ryu smiled, waiting until nightfall to happily head to his office. Upon arrival, She found his ex-girlfriend there. They were discussing work. Choi Sung-hyo had texted Bae Seok-ryu about everyone being there tonight, but she hadn't seen the message. Others were unaware of their relationship and showed Bae Seok-ryu a photo of Choi Sung-hyo and his ex-girlfriend from an interview. Upset, Bae Seok-ryu confronted Choi Sung-hyo for not informing her about the interview. She questioned if he had disclosed their relationship to his ex. Choi Sung-hyo denied, as Bae Seok-ryu had instructed him to keep their relationship a secret. Bae Seok-ryu was speechless. After his ex left, Choi Sung-hyo spoke to her in a low voice, urging her to be careful on her way home. Bae Seok-ryu felt uneasy and asked about his past relationship. Choi Sung-hyo was unhappy, feeling no obligation to discuss such matters. Bae Seok-ryu left the studio upset. This was the first argument between the young couple. Meanwhile, both sets of parents planned a 2-day trip together. Choi Sung-hyo's parents packed a lot of belongings. Choi Sung-hyo's dad brought compression bandages and heating pads, fearing his wife might hurt her foot again. On the trip, he took great care of her. When Choi Sung-hyo's mom wanted photos, he quickly grabbed the camera from his bag, set up the lens, and lay on the ground to take beautiful pictures of her. He had learned from a blogger how to take flattering photos of his wife. Bae Seok-ryu's mom was annoyed on the side. She flipped through the photos and saw that her husband had taken unflattering shots of her, making her look short and fat. With no parents at home, Bae Seok-ryu waited for Choi Sung-hyo to contact her, but her phone received no messages. She had Jong Mo-yeom call her to check if her phone was working. Bae Seok-ryu thought Choi Sung-hyo was intentionally not contacting her and shared with Jong Mo-yeom the reason for their argument. She admitted she shouldn't have asked about his ex-girlfriend. Bae Seok-ryu lost interest in her favorite comics and went out for a walk, feeling irritable. She encountered Choi Sung-hyo feeding a cat with its own little house, which he had made. In high school, Bae Seok-ryu, who was allergic to cats, had saved an injured cat. Choi Sung-hyo had designed and built a cat house for her and occasionally refurbished it, improving its design. Choi Sung-hyo confessed he made the cat house for Bae Seok-ryu and had decided then to become an architect. Suddenly hungry, Choi Sung-hyo was taken home by Bae Seok-ryu for dinner. At the table, Bae Seok-ryu apologized for her behavior and jealousy about his ex-girlfriend. Choi Sung-hyo also apologized and promised not to hide anything and to minimize contact with his ex. Choi Sung-hyo admitted he was somewhat pleased to see Bae Seok-ryu jealous, but also realized he couldn't focus on work after their fights. After dinner, Choi Sung-hyo went to Bae Seok-ryu's room to read comics. Being with her always made him nervous. During a movie, he wanted to hold her hand, but hesitated and gave up because he liked her too much and didn't know how to act. The atmosphere between them grew more intimate, and Choi Sung-hyo wanted to escape before he had inappropriate thoughts. Bae Seok-ryu admitted she had always liked junk food since childhood and grew to like the naughty thoughts in Choi Sung-hyo's mind. She was also open to doing couple things. With her consent, Choi Sung-hyo kissed Bae Seok-ryu. They lay in bed, and Bae Seok-ryu turned off the bedside lamp, kissing under the stars.